In this section of notes, we are going to explore the defining characteristics of life. These are the characteristics scientists use to decide whether something is truly living or not. It is important to note, however, that not all scientists agree that these characteristics are defining and limiting. For example, viruses, which we will also talk about in this course, have a lot of the characteristics of life, but are not considered living because they are not made of at least one cell. The big question that we are slowly answering is, what is life? We are exploring how life is defined. The biology word for a living thing is an organism, so it is fitting that we can use this word to help us remember the characteristics of life. All living things are organized, reproduce, grow and develop, use DNA as their hereditary information, need energy, react to stimuli, maintain homeostasis, and are made of at least one cell. All living things demonstrate organization, even unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms are made of only one cell. These cells can be either prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Prokaryotic are cells that have no nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. The prefix pro means before. Karyo means nucleus. I always remember that pro rhymes with no, to help me remember that prokaryotes do not have a nucleus. Eukaryotic cells, however, have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Eu means true, and again, karyo means nucleus, so eukaryotic cells have a true nucleus. No matter the cell type, all cells organize their molecules in specific regions to perform specific functions. Multicellular organisms, on the other hand, have a lot more levels to their organization. Multicellular organisms, if you haven't guessed it, are organisms made of many cells, like us. Multicellular organisms progress from the cellular level to form tissues, organs, organ systems, and finally organisms. Using this diagram, you can see that these levels build upon one another. Tissues are made of cells, organs are made of tissues, and it keeps going on. So the question is, how do we get all of this complexity? Differentiation, that is. Differentiation is probably the coolest thing to happen to cells. It's like the cell goes to school to fit a specific job. All of our cells start out as totipotent embryonic stem cells. Here's that word to help you spell it. There's totipotent for you. Okay. These cells, the totipotent cells, are epic. They can become any cell they want. Cells for forming your body or cells for your placenta while you're still in your mom. Normally, they become a type of pluripotent stem cells. Here's that word for you, if I can scroll. Okay. They're the next best level down. They're still pretty cool. They can become any type of cell in your body. The last level down are multipotent cells. These are cells that can become a variety of cells within one specific type. For example, certain multipotent cells can become any type of blood cell in your body. For example, erythrocytes, which are red blood cells, or they can become any variety of leukocytes, which are your white blood cells. It's pretty awesome how every cell in your body basically comes from one cell, which is formed during reproduction. All organisms must be able to reproduce. This does not mean if you can't have kids, you're dead. Infertility is typically due to a genetic or a structural issue. There are two broad types of reproduction: asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction does not involve mixing genes. A means without, so think without sex. Sexual reproduction does. We will talk more about these towards the end of the year. All organisms must both grow and develop. Growth is pretty self-explanatory. It's an increase in size. Development is a little different. Development is maturing. For a silly way to picture this, imagine that as humans we never developed, that we just grew. If you're picturing giant babies, you've got the right idea. All organisms develop in some aspect, typically to gain independence or to prepare for reproduction. All organisms use DNA as their hereditary information. This means that all organisms pass on their traits using DNA. We will talk a lot about DNA throughout the year. All organisms need energy. How they obtain that energy is different depending on the type of organism. The first type we're going to look at are the autotrophs. These are organisms that are able to synthesize their own food from inorganic sources of energy, like the sun or chemicals. To help you remember this, the prefix auto means self and troph means nutrients. So autotrophs are able to make their own nutrients. The other type of organism are heterotrophs. They have to eat other organisms. So hetero means different, and troph means nutrients. So these organisms get their nutrients from different organisms. All organisms respond to stimuli. Reaction can range from goosebumps when you are cold to chasing down food because you're hungry. Instinct is also considered a reaction. For example, if I throw an eraser at your head, hopefully your instincts will either make you duck or block the eraser. These pictures can help you remember the reaction to stimuli, whether it's silly or not so silly. All organisms must maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is maintaining internal conditions or staying the same internally. To help you remember this, the prefix homeo means same, and stasis sounds like stay. So homeostasis is basically trying to stay the same inside. This is crucial. The environment is always changing, but organisms must be able to react to keep their bodies working at a certain level. Organisms who can't maintain homeostasis end up dying. So sad. There are two general ways that organisms maintain homeostasis. That's negative feedback and positive feedback. So negative feedback tries to reverse a condition, while positive feedback is going to try to enhance the condition. I'll show you both of those. So there's positive trying to enhance the condition and negative trying to reverse the condition. So we have two examples here on the slide. We have, here I'll slide that up there. Okay, negative feedback, positive feedback. Okay, so positive feedback is like in childbirth, because as the baby presses down, the contractions get stronger. As the contractions get stronger, the baby continues to press down. So it's this never-ending cycle to keep going until the baby is out and there's no more stimulus. Negative feedback works just like the heating and cooling in your house, where, for example, if you are cold, okay, your body temperature is cold, okay, tells your brain tells your body to shiver to try to raise your temperature. And vice versa when you're hot, okay, if you're hot, your brain gets that sense, right? It tells your body to sweat. So it's trying to reverse that condition. That's negative feedback. Let's move this out of the way. All organisms are made of one or more cells. This goes back to the idea of organization. We have unicellular organisms which are made of one cell and multicellular organisms which are made of multiple cells. This characteristic of life, however, is one that is highly disputed, primarily due to viruses. So the point of contention between a lot of scientists is concerning viruses and whether or not they are considered living. Viruses reproduce, okay, have hereditary information, either DNA or RNA, and change over time. They behave like they are living, but they're not considered living. The key differences between viruses and most living things are that they don't maintain homeostasis, they can't reproduce on their own, they don't grow, They don't seem to need energy, and they don't directly respond to stimuli. Viruses are essentially a piece of genetic information surrounded by a protein shell. You made it through your first notes section. Keep going. You got this.